Hello, Thunder Wizards. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how to break through the glass ceiling in your unconscious mind when it comes to manifesting money, prosperity, whatever the hell it is. Most people are complain most of the time about not having enough money, but it could be anything. It really doesn't matter. So I'm calling it the glass ceiling because it's a ceiling that we feel that is there. We understand that it's there, but we can see past it. And so it's very frustrating. And normally this phrase is applied to women in the workplace, that there's this unspoken rule that, women can only go so far in the workplace or can only get paid so much money. But that ceiling is there, and if you're a good person, you don't go around breaking glass. That's why we call it the glass ceiling. It can be broken, but you don't go around doing that. And so what we end up doing is we can see where we want to go, but we have this unspoken understanding with ourselves that we can only go so far. Let me give you an example. I've shared this before. By the way, this is the Manifestation Mastery Series 18A. And so watch this all the way through, because after I go through my spiel, I'm going to point you in the direction of an incredibly powerful shamanic technique which you can use to destroy the creators of this glass ceiling. So we're going to get to that. Who actually creates this glass ceiling in your mind? So, imagine yourself, you're in a room and there's a stairway going up, all the way up to the third floor. And you can see all the way up to the third floor, but if you walk up the stairs, you're going to bump into this huge, thick pane of glass. And so you don't go past that. You get used to it. The thing about ceilings is that ceilings protect you. So you don't want to go around destroying your roof or destroying your ceiling, because there's this feeling that it protects you. So remember this. This is important. Keep this this picture in your mind of a thick glass ceiling that is protecting you. And you have this feeling of safety and protection. But yet you want to get to the top. You want to climb up the staircase up to the top, but you can't, because there's a glass ceiling there. And so you're conflicted, because on the one hand, the glass ceiling keeps you safe. But on the other hand, it's keeping you from getting to where you want to go. And this is my point. My point is that, you can complain all you want about how you have your glass ceiling, and everybody does. There's no shortage of complaints. Society is doing it for us. The economy, and people go so far as to blame all kinds of groups and races of people for their problems and their, it's the immigrants, it's the government, it's the devil, it's the elites, it's space aliens, it's there's always something, and maybe some of these things and or groups and or people actually are doing things that may be getting in the way. But the point is that I've proven to myself, and I can see it in others, that we are the ones that ultimately decide where this glass ceiling is. And if you think about it, here's another example, how we get trained into creating arbitrary limitations for ourselves. So what I'm saying here is that if you're in a spot where you're constantly running into this one arbitrary money level that you just can't get past it, even if you get a raise, this is an interesting thing I've seen. I experienced it. I've seen it in other people's lives. They get a raise. They get another job that pays twice as much. And for some reason, they still end up in this same position where they always have the same amount of money in their account. And they're always still complaining about not having enough money. So, as I was saying, elephants. Elephants are really, really strong creatures. And one of the ways that you keep an elephant trained is when they're little, just tiny little elephants, you tie a rope around their leg, and you tie that to just a stake in the ground, or a tree. I think you tie it to a tree, and the elephant, the baby elephant, tries to get away, and it can't because the rope prevents it. And after just continuously being tied to the tree by the rope, the baby elephant decides that it can't ever escape a rope. So what ends up happening is that when the elephant is full grown and is enormous and could, you could put a chain around its leg and it could snap, a tree, trying to walk away. All you have to do is just put a rope around its leg and just put a stake in the ground, a little tiny stake, tink, tink, tink. And what will happen is the elephant will just feel this slight pull of the rope and won't even try and get away. And this is what we do to ourselves. We chain ourselves to our limitations. And we seemingly don't understand. So imagine again, the glass ceiling is there, but imagine you can't see it. And you start to climb up and boom, you hit this barrier. You're like, what is going on? It's like a force field, and no matter how hard you try, you can't get past it, and you can't see it. This is the frustrating thing. It's like, why can't I make more money? Why can't I be more successful? It's because there is an arbitrary limit that we set for ourselves in our unconscious mind, and it happens when we're little kids. Most of the time, it usually happens when we're like that elephant, the baby elephant. That's when it gets trained to, whenever it feels a rope on its leg, if there's the slightest bit of tension on the rope, the baby elephant just says, I can't get past that. And when it's a full-grown elephant and the rope will do zero to stop it, it feels a slight bit of tension in the rope, and it just stops. This is what happens with us. But let me explain to you how this works. Now, when we're little tiny kids, we have to survive. Now, the great thing about the unconscious mind is that it is created. We've evolved this mind to protect us. It's one of the things that makes us human. We have this unconscious mind. And this unconscious mind has all kinds of really wonderful things in it. But we create things to protect us and to help us get through life. So let me give you a positive example of how the unconscious mind will catapult you to fame and stardom and prosperity and riches if you are aligned that way. I love watching reality shows like MasterChef or Hell's Kitchen, or even things like The Voice, not because I give a crap about cooking or I give a crap about singing. It's not why I watch it. I watch it to study how, and to study and try and predict who in there has unconscious issues and try and figure out what the unconscious issues are. At some point in those shows, what will happen is you will, as the audience member, you will see whose family, like whose parents and whose brothers and sisters and husband and wife, you will see which ones of the people in the competition have the most support from their mom and their dad. And you will find that the ones that have the most support, like you can see how proud their parents are. Like, my parents weren't like that at all. My parents did the best job that they could, but they just didn't have the skills. And I've shared about that. But when I watch, when there's like somebody who's 20 years old and their parents show up, you know, and they've flown all the way across the country to see them in a competition, and you see the parents weeping, saying things like, "We are so proud of you, that you can't imagine how amazing my child is. I have always known that my child is going to do big things." And you know, it doesn't really matter what their kid is doing, they really honestly believe that. And so what that means is that when they're little kids, they energetically get programmed to please their parents, because their parents honestly want the best for them and don't seem to have a whole lot of, you know, unconscious projection about them, and they're able to reflect back to the child their true potential. And the child gets imprinted with this feeling of, I can do anything, and when I'm successful, mommy and daddy are happy. When mommy and daddy are happy, they will make sure that I will survive. This is the way it's supposed to be, because what happens is when they get to be young adults, that unconscious projection of mommy and daddy loving me and taking care of me turns into the universe. And so they'll say things like, you can do anything that you want. And I've always known that if I put my mind towards something, I can always do it. And so they can decide, I want to be CEO of this, or I want to start my own company, or, you know, create my own restaurant, or whatever it is. It's because when they were little kids, like that little baby elephant, instead of being held back, the parents gave them the message of, if you are successful, like not just like, you know, super successful, become, you know, the next whatever. I'm not talking about those kinds of parents. I'm talking about when you are happy, when you do things that give you joy, you make us happy. And when that message is really energetically given to a kid, then they become imprinted with success. So what happens is they go through a lot of the same trials and tribulations, but when, you know, the test really comes, they have this programming that says, I can do whatever I want, and the universe wants me to be successful, and if I'm successful, the universe will give me what I need to survive. And so their survival instinct becomes associated with going after what they want. Now, for little kids who are trained differently, if your parents had whatever self-sabotage, whatever issues they have, they're going to project them onto you. Even if they don't say it, they will energetically project it onto you. Lots of times they will come out and say it. I myself, my father was a brilliant, still to this day, they're trying to figure out his equations. He was a brilliant physicist. He was in the space race, and for a while he was the man who had designed more satellites than any one man in the world. That was going on during the space race with the Russians. It was a big deal. Point is, he was incredibly successful, but I intimidated him. His little 10-year-old, 12-year-old son was intimidating to him because he had all kinds of weird things with himself and his dad. And so, of course, he projected that onto me. And whenever I started to succeed, he would find ways to make me feel stupid and insecure. And so I got the message, if I want mommy and daddy's love, I have to be mediocre. And so I created, the reason why I talk about this is because I lived it. You know, I'd only get so far. I could be a brilliant student. I could be full of talent. I could be really smart, and people could see a lot of promise in me. But when it came to really breaking through to success, there was just this force field I couldn't get past. And then I was living with this self-hatred and this self-sabotage. And I didn't know what was going on. So that's how I've come to learn that the only way you break through that is continued action. And so it is as though we're breaking through an invisible glass ceiling. And so what happens when you break through glass? It cuts you. So if you've been programmed to to be, to reach some arbitrary level of success. If you have been programmed by your parents to do that, understand that your unconscious mind thinks that it's protecting you. It doesn't know. Your unconscious mind doesn't know it's a bad demon trying to destroy you. Whenever I think about a subject to talk about, I'll go on YouTube and flip around to see what other things are being done. And I thought about doing something about breaking, money curses until I saw that, all of the videos were crazy nutcase born again Christians that were screaming at the screen, trying to cast demons out of people. And I thought, man, yeah, that's what it is. If you're poor, it's because you're possessed by a demon of poverty. But you'd be surprised. I mean, go look at it for yourself. I mean, the people are nuts. It's just crazy. But it feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like that there's some unseen force that is keeping you from your happiness, some evil force. But it's not. It's actually your unconscious mind that believes that it is protecting you and making sure that you are safe. That's the insidious part of the whole thing. So when you break through that glass ceiling, that glass can cut you. That's the experience that we have. So, I've been working with students for a while, and I have, a handful of apprentices that work for me, and not work for me, that work with me. And we, as they continue to get successful and their life begins to change, then they bump into this glass ceiling. And of course, I continue to encourage them to keep taking action towards their soul desire. And I help them understand all of the crazy feelings that they're having. Because one of the things that I recommend that people do is that when they determine what their soul desire is, go up to neo.thunderwizard.com if you want to know what that is. When they determine what their true soul desire is and they go after it and they continue to take action regardless of how frightened and how insecure and how impossible it feels to them, they start to get some real success. Real change in their life starts to happen. And then the really surprising thing happens. You would think that once people start getting the success that they want, that they would feel a relief and, oh, I'm finally there. But when you hit that ceiling and you start to break through, the glass starts to cut you. And the glass cutting you is your unconscious mind believes that it has to protect you. And so it throws up all of these very confusing feelings. You become angry. You become sad. You become depressed. You start to feel the exact opposite of what is happening to you. I've seen this. In fact, I'm watching this with somebody I know. It's a younger person, and she is, she's just really going after her desire to become a musician, a pop star. And she's starting to achieve some notoriety. It's a long way before she's, super, super, super rich and famous, but she's starting to really make some inroads. And she is overwhelmed with this feeling of being abandoned and unsupported and that nobody hears her or sees her. And those of us around her are like, but that is not at all what's happening. Do you see that? And she doesn't. She honestly feels nobody's there and I'm trying so hard and why is nothing happening? It's because she's breaking it through that glass ceiling in her mind. And her unconscious mind, which has been programmed to meet her parents' expectations, which, were to, I won't get into it, but she didn't have very supportive parents. That's the feelings that are coming up because she's breaking the rules. So the rules are, if your parents, neither of my parents ever sat me down when I was 4 or 5 years old and said, You're not supposed to be successful. You have to be, um, just mediocre, run of the mill. They never said that. They always said you should do well in school and you should be successful and blah blah blah. The energetic message. The energetic message was, if you want mommy and daddy's love, you have to be mediocre. You have to be smart, you have to be talented, but you can't ever accomplish anything. That was the message that I got. And so that's exactly what I did for most of my early adulthood. And so she has hers, which is, her mother gets very insecure when her daughter starts to succeed. I'm assuming, that's my take on it. From what I glean, that's what it sounds like. And so what's happening is that she's breaking through the glass ceiling and she's having all those feelings that have no basis in what is actually happening. But what happens is those feelings are so strong and they blind us from what's really happening, is that we then start to create what those feelings are engendering. So, she's working through it and she's got a group of people that she's working through and she's really taking action, so she's going to make it. But if she didn't have that support system and if she was just listening to the messages coming from her unconscious, she would then create a scenario where nobody did support her, nobody did understand her, nobody did listen to her. She would create that enough where she could sabotage her success. And then she'd be right back where she was and, shaking her fist at the universe. So, I teach that, up here in neo.thunderwizard.com, the 4 things that you need. And go there and click on the link and you can hear about that. I won't take the time to take you through that. But what I teach is that once you've identified what you want, you have to take fearless action towards it. You have to continue to take fearless action towards it, regardless of the feelings that come up. That is the only way that you can break through. You will, if you have been programmed negatively, you will go through challenging emotions. Now, I don't wish that on you. I wish you all the success in the world. And if it happens for you and you start to make money and it's all okay and you feel relief, I'm happy for you. Seriously, I want nothing but happiness for you. My experience is, if you have been negatively programmed, you are going to have a lot of kickback, and it's going to, for some people, it's very intense. But as I said in the beginning, there is a shamanic technique. There's a ton of them. There's no shortage of shamanic techniques, but I'm going to share with you one that is a symbolic technique, ritual technique for your unconscious mind to grab onto. Because here's what needs to happen. We need to reprogram our own unconscious mind. We can't do it with positive affirmations. You can go to therapy. I recommend it. Therapy is great. Get a counselor. I highly recommend it. But going to a counselor and going to therapy will probably get you so far as to be able to be conscious of, oh my God, I was trained to think this way as a kid. And sometimes that's not enough. Because the unconscious mind, just because you can see what it's doing, it won't stop what it does. Because here's the thing, the unconscious mind, when you start to break through that glass ceiling, and the unconscious mind kicks in and tries to protect you, it doesn't send you a postcard or an email that says, hey, stop, you are breaking your negative programming. If you keep going, you will be successful, and I can't let that happen. It doesn't do that. It says things that make you feel that you can't see clearly through your fears and your emotions, and the emotions are telling you you're in danger. You have to stop. This is wrong. There's somebody that, apparently according to him, I don't remember, but apparently according to him, there's somebody that wants to argue with me about taking action. And he said that he's argued with me about this before, and gives me all these reasons why taking action is too forceful and too, I don't even remember what it was. And it's really clear to me. I know exactly what's going on with this guy. I don't know all the details, but I can tell just by the way he talks in his argument, because he's also it's very emotional for him. He has a very strong emotional attachment to try and talk me out of, telling people that they need to take action to achieve things. Fearless action, especially. He has a real hard time with that. So I can already tell what that is. I can already tell that somewhere when he was a little kid, he got the message from his parents that if he took bold action towards what he wanted, that his parents were either going to not love him, or they were going to feel unsupported, or like my dad, feel intimidated. And so he's still battling with that. And when he goes to take action, there's this strong reaction that tells him, you can't do that. That's wrong. That's violent and that's forceful. And you can't do that. This is what the unconscious mind does. It's been programmed to tell you all of the things that will push your buttons and make you stop in your tracks and bring about whatever feeling it is that will be so intolerable that you will turn around, just like bumping into that force field and turning around and sitting back down and looking up through the ceiling and seeing at the top where you want to be, but knowing that that roof is protecting you and you better not break through. So I don't want to make light of it, because the fact of the matter is I keep talking about it for a simple reason. It takes a while to break through, and it takes a while to reprogram it. So this was the Manifestation Mastery Course video 17A. We are going to go to the 17B video, and to get to that, you go to number 4 on neo.thunderwizard.com, or you can just go to thunderwizard.com, click on Manifestation Mastery Course, and you can watch 18B, the 18B video of this, how to break through the glass ceiling of your unconscious mind. And I will share with you a shamanic ritual that will begin to reprogram your unconscious mind. Shamanic ritual, when it is done correctly and when it's done surgically and when it's done intelligently, is, in my experience, the most powerful tool to reprogram your unconscious mind. Now, you have to do all the other stuff. You still have to take the action. You still have to identify what your soul desires. You still need to talk with people, be in a community of people that can reflect back to you what's really going on. You still have to do all that. But the ritual itself will then convince the unconscious mind what is in your best interest. Because once you can, sit the unconscious mind down and say, and be able to convince it, listen, you have been programmed wrong. Everything that you've been programmed to do to protect me when it comes to money and success is actually hurting me. And when you can reprogram it so that your unconscious mind goes, oh, I'm supposed to encourage you to be more successful. Oh, all right, I can do that. And then all of a sudden, nothing will stop you. And just like in those reality competition TV shows, maybe not the person who's most talented, the person who has the best inner programming is the one that wins. Because there isn't that blowback. There's no glass ceiling that as they go through they get cut by. There's nothing preventing them from going after what they want. Just the normal challenges that we all go through. Okay? So I'll see you over there. Go to thunderwizard.com, click on Manifestation Mastery Course, and watch the Manifestation Mastery video 18B. And I will share with you the very powerful shamanic ritual technique that you can begin to do, which if you do on a regular basis, will start to shift your unconscious mind to start being programmed for your success instead of against it. Okay, I'll see you over there.